Well, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. We've got a lot to get to on this podcast today with Hurricane Francine hitting the Louisiana coast. Thinking of all you guys down there in Louisiana and those affected areas. And so I'm bringing this to you guys as a solo pod because, one, want to get you through any cleanup you got or just dealing with whatever's going on. Maybe take your mind off of it a little bit with some LSU recruiting. Shay and Maddie B are down there as well, dealing with all of that too. But hope everybody made it out safe and sound with all the storm coming through. So thinking of all y'all down there. But we do have a lot to get to on the recruiting front, and it's been a minute since we've been able to get together for a podcast. So wanted to jump in with some 5-star talk and early season, early impressions of two of the best in 2026. And LSU is sitting right near the top of the recruiting rankings in the 2025 class. Well, they're going to have another opportunity to be right up there with some of these top end talent that are in the state of Louisiana. But as always, never a dull moment when it comes to recruiting. And we've seen that with two of the best in Louisiana and specifically with the number one player overall in the class of 2026 on 3, and that is Jakeem Stewart. And he is now headed to play his high school football at Edna Carr. That is a big move for him. Leaving St. Aug, that is all being finalized. So we'll see the profile here reflected soon. But for LSU, this is a good situation for them to be in because, one, LSU has plenty of ties with Edna Carr, one of the top programs in the state of Louisiana, a program that has multiple LSU commits in the 2026 class with Richard Anderson and Aiden Hall, two of the top prospects in the entire country for the class of 2026. There's Richard Anderson, who had an interception the other night, as well as Aiden Hall, who's been doing a lot on the football field for Edna Carr since he got there. And then, of course, in the class of 2025, they've got Teron Francis, too. So a really stacked group there at Edna Carr only gets more impressive. But the thing with this move for Jakeem Stewart going over to Edna Carr is that he's going to now be ineligible in all likelihood, barring anything crazy going on in terms of the ruling. He's going to be ineligible for the rest of his junior year. And this is unfortunate. And the reason why is because it's such a critical year for development. It's such a big opportunity for him to continue to stake a claim to that number one overall position. And we'll explain why in just a moment, as LSU is not just in the mix for Jakeem Stewart as a number one prospect, but Lamar Brown is going to be very much in the mix for that number one overall prospect ranking over the course of his recruitment. But with Jahkeem, he's somebody that had a huge sophomore season, really, really good, impressive tape, impressive numbers, went around the country and camped at LSU this offseason and really is, been a guy who's been on the radar for a long, long time. He had one of the most impressive camps in the entire country when he was at I believe it was the Houston camp this offseason, but he really put it together over the course of the last year and a half to become really a very early number one overall prospect in the country. And so we'll see how he looks come spring. He'll, I think, get to play JV. I'm not really sure how that works right now. There's still a lot that's going on, but there were a lot of rumors around Jakeem Stewart and if he would end up at IMG, where I believe he briefly transferred or started his high school career for just a cup of coffee and then moved on. But for Jahkeem, this is a big opportunity for him to obviously get right physically, get into a good headspace for that senior year. And the thing that everybody asks about is, well, what are the rumors around him reclassifying? And I can tell you this, it's going to be very hard for him to reclassify for a multitude of reasons. He's been at St. Aug. He's been working towards graduating early, but also now that he's moving on to Edna Carr, the classes don't necessarily always transfer high school to high school. And For LSU, in terms of how they're operating right now, they're operating under the assumption he's going to be a 2026 prospect. And that makes it very interesting in terms of, trying to figure all that out. But that's the reality of how they're approaching it because of him transferring now. He was into a very interesting situation once he left St. Aug. There was a chance he was going to go to IMG, but that didn't pan out. That opportunity didn't come through. But as the number one prospect, Jahkeem Stewart got over to Edna Carr. They were very happy to have him over there. Of course, he's going to be ineligible this year, so he'll be helping Edna Carr, as a football team, be better. Just in terms of going up against them, day in, day out in practice. He had 85 tackles, 33 for loss, and 20 sacks last year as a sophomore. And he was a preseason high school All-American for On3. But with him being ineligible now, he'll need to continue to stay on everything he's been doing as far as working out. And in terms of recruiting, I guess now this leaves him opportunities to take more visits if he wants to. LSU is the On3 recruiting prediction machine leader. USC, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Auburn, all in the mix there for him. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how this recruitment plays out. But from what we've understood for a long time now, when it comes to LSU's position in this recruitment, they sit in a very good spot. And I think they remain the leading program in this recruitment, and him transferring, the rumors around reclassification haven't changed that for myself, haven't changed that for Shay. And we are just going to continue to keep a very close eye on Jakeem Stewart. But it's unfortunate that he isn't going to be able to play out his junior season, and a big opportunity for him to just, again, cement himself as one of the overall best prospects in the entire country. Now, some of these other players are going to be able to, take a stab at getting in that position for a challenge to that spot. So Jakeem Stewart, best of luck at Edna Carr. Obviously, LSU has a lot of ties to that program, and the Tigers still sit in a very good spot with Jakeem Stewart. When it comes to another 2026 prospect who I am extremely high on, and that is U-High's Lamar Brown. And we've seen him play offensive line and defensive line in camps. But guys, let me tell you, it would not shock me, or I should say, in my personal rankings, Lamar Brown might be the number one prospect in the country for me. I think when you have that ability to flip sides like that and be so dominant on the field, and also just everything I hear about him as a student of the game, his smarts, all of those things, I think you're looking at somebody who's got a very bright career ahead of him. And look, when you look at Lamar Brown and you look at On3's 2026 top 10, Jakeem Stewart's number one. Chris Henry, the Ohio State commitment at wide receiver, 6'5", 195, is the number 2 overall player in the country. Emmanuel Iheanacho, or Iheanacho, offensive tackle out of the DMV, is the number 3 overall prospect, 6'7", 350, nearly 6'7". Jackson Cantwell, who's looking at LSU as well, out of Missouri, is the number 4 overall prospect. And then you have Lamar Brown. And another personal favorite is John Turntine there, if you're looking and watching on our YouTube channel. Lamar Brown is the one out of these, highly touted offensive linemen that are sitting around the top 10 nationally for On3 that is still developing physically. And I think that's the most exciting thing about Lamar Brown is that he is not a finished product. He is going to be a very good football player at the next level for a long, long time. And I think that, LSU still sits in a good spot. He was just at the home game against Nichols. So that was a really good look for LSU to have him on campus and they're enjoying his time. And look, I mean, the pitch is pretty simple for Lamar Brown. I mean, he's going to be able to come in. If you fast forward his junior year and his junior offseason and then into his senior year, he's going to have an opportunity to, put on weight and be ready to contribute early. I know that's a lot of pressure in terms of offensive linemen and how they traditionally don't contribute early. But that is truly how good I feel about Lamar Brown and what he brings to the table. He has been to Texas A&M for a visit. He was there for the Notre Dame game, and he is certainly being pursued by the entire country at a very high level. And I would argue that even more so than Jakeem Stewart at this point, who's been on that recruiting scene for so long that his list maybe is a little bit more not whittled down, but the factors in his recruitment have kind of been determined. But for Lamar Brown, I mean, a couple things that I've picked up over the course of the last month or so is that UCF is going to host him for that game against Colorado, September 28th. And, people kind of scoff at it maybe behind the scenes. And I'm not saying by any means that Lamar Brown is going to go to UCF, but he is very much giving them a fair shake. And LSU is obviously doing a really good job in this recruitment. He's been a constant on campus in terms of visits, both camps and spring practices and all of those things. But LSU getting him on campus for that Nichols game was a nice sign after he started off his season going to visit Texas A&M, and then UCF coming up later this fall. He's also visited Alabama. He's checked out Tulane as well, but he's got the likes of Florida State, Houston, Miami, Michigan, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and USC in there as well as far as his top 12, which he dropped just after the 4th of July. Again, he's the number 4 overall prospect in the country for On3. And with Lamar Brown, there's kind of been some rumors that he might shut things down early. We haven't heard that yet. We're under the impression he's going to take some visits, but he has thrown around the idea of committing November 1st, which is his birthday. And if he's not ready, he's going to push it back. He's been pretty adamant about that. But for LSU, they want to get Lamar Brown on board early. And we saw last year, just like Keelan Moses, he announced his commitment early. And before the turn of the page to 2024 even happened, he jumped on early, and that was big for LSU just as far as the recruiting aspect. But you want these guys to make sure they're not going to take any more visits, and that happened with Keelan. And I know Lamar Brown has taken some visits, but he has a list of 12 schools. It's going to be very interesting to see if he goes from 12 to commitment, basically. But he is a very, very good football player, one of the best prospects in the country. I have so much high praise for him as an offensive lineman from what I've seen and heard. And I know people immediately with LSU want to throw him at defensive line. And I'm sure Bo Davis would love that as well. But from what I hear, he's in a really good shape to be one of the best offensive linemen we've seen, coming out of Louisiana for sure in the last, bit. And that includes guys like Will Campbell and Emory Jones and Zalance Hurd as far as prospects go. So really like, what I'm hearing about Lamar Brown as a prospect. Still feel good about my On3 RPM pick for him as well. But he is being recruited at a mega level now. And it'll be on LSU to try to make sure that birthday commitment, November 1st, if that's what he ends up doing, kind of sticks in that. And if so, I would think that means good news for LSU by the end of the season. So wanted to kick that off as far as talking about two of the best prospects in the entire class of 2026. Of course, two major LSU prospects that people are going to talk about, and we'll be keeping close eyes on them, as well as Blaine Bradford, the Catholic high safety, who's in the top 10 for On3 right now as well. But before we go any further, guys, I want to talk to you guys about our friend Andy Luedecke at myperfectfranchise.net. My Perfect Franchise can help you find the opportunity of a lifetime. If you want to change your family's life, and if you want to change your dynamic in terms of money being brought in and a different avenue, or you want to get out of the corporate rat race, this is the best way to do it. Andy Luedecke and his team, he's a franchise consultant. He does this for free. He can help guide you into a franchise that will help you be successful, a franchise that is the best fit for your time, your money, all of those things. And it's something you could pass on to your kids too. So you can leave a legacy with that. give him a call, 404-973-9901, or email him, Andy, ANDY, at myperfectfranchise.net. As we get to the class of 2025, LSU's top 5 recruiting class that they currently have, and we'll talk about a lot of the senior seasons. I do want to mention that one of the top prospects in the class of 2027 is off to a big start to his sophomore campaign, and that is Elijah Havens at the Dunham School right there in Baton Rouge, same school that produced Derek Stingley Jr. So a place that we're pretty familiar with, just having gone over there a lot watching Sting. But he debuted this offseason as the number 11 overall prospect in the country, number 1 quarterback in the nation. And Elijah Haven has stacked up some pretty quality offers early on. Baylor, Florida, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and others have entered the mix early on. You see on the On3 industry ranking, he is the number 3 overall prospect. He's the number 1 quarterback. 24/7 does have him as the number 1 overall prospect. And this one's going to be very interesting because he is far from a finished product, but you can also see the vision of what he can be if he hits. And I'm really intrigued to watch his development. LSU has not offered him yet. They haven't offered any of these 2027 quarterbacks that are in the state of Louisiana. And that's going to be something that is going to be a huge storyline, coming into the 2027 class, because there are guys like Colton Nussmeier out of Texas, of course, Garrett Nussmeier's brother. There is Malachi Ziegler. There is Peyton Houston in the state of Louisiana. There's a lot of talent, but I bring up Elijah Haven because he was at LSU's game against Nichols as well. So a good chance for LSU to get him around campus, get him around the staff, and see what they've got going on. And if you're kind of looking at it way long term, it would be quite the opportunity for him to come in, learn from a guy by the name of Bryce Underwood, and then find a way to then get him, on the field at certain points, but red shirt mainly. And then you can have a very natural plan from Bryce Underwood to an Elijah Haven or any of these 2027 quarterbacks. I don't know what Joe Sloan is going to do, but certainly a very intriguing decision that he has to make, and one that, if Joe Sloan is still the offensive coordinator here and not a head coach somewhere, it's going to kind of define the what's next for LSU in terms of that 2027 quarterback. So nothing makes me feel older than talking about 2027 quarterbacks. And I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see where Joe Sloan goes from there. So Elijah Haven was on campus as well this past weekend. As we get into the class of 2025, this is a time of year where it is all about maybe playing a little bit of whack-a-mole. But for LSU, they've got the number 3 overall class in the country. They do have 2 top 10 prospects committed on the On3 industry ranking, in Bryce Underwood and DJ Picket. And we'll talk about Picket in just a few minutes. But Bryce Underwood, do want to talk about him for just a minute, because was talking with Shay before I got on this podcast, and was talking with Charles Power, who, if you don't follow Charles Power on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, he is the guy to follow for highlights. He has the ability to pull them. He's watching a bunch of different games. He's in the complete war room of watching high school football for you, so you don't have to, as he likes to say. But Bryce Underwood is off to a huge start this year for his Bellevue team in Michigan. He's obviously hunting for another state championship to his resume. He is far and away the number 1 overall prospect in the country, outside of rivals, having Tavian St. Clair there. But, this not past weekend, but his first weekend, he had 177 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 7 carries running the football. And he's really been dynamic in that respect this season. He's been able to really show that athleticism that, is really, I think, underrated. I think people look at him and all the dynamic throws that he can make, but he is a very good runner as well. And so I think with Bryce Underwood in this class, obviously you've got a clear-cut leader, number 1 overall piece to that puzzle. And I like what he's done so far this year. So I'm looking forward to getting some time to maybe flip on one of his games, a big matchup, and get a better look at him this fall. As far as his supporting cast that are coming with him to LSU, two of the best in 2025 at the running back position. Harlem Berry, who is going to remain the number one running back in the country for on three. I don't think there's any doubt about that right now. He's been able to show off his explosiveness over the course of this season already. He was named Player of the Week by Crescent City Sports. He was named the Metro Area's Player of the Week, and he had 169 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then caught 3 passes for 109 yards and a third touchdown. He's also playing defense, which is something we really like to see as well with running backs and linebackers, just getting both sides of the ball. That is something that is a really nice thing to see. And it just shows you just the type of guy he is, willing to put his body on the line like that, and has really been, again, a really impressive force, as has JT Lindsay. On three kind of led the way here, having him as a 4-star prospect, and we've seen others follow suit. But he had 170-something yards and maybe a touchdown or two. I saw his touchdown run that he had, but this was their season opener this past week. He was on campus as well for the Nichols game, and he is just rolling as well. So they had a win, I believe, over West Feliciana, and got a big contribution from JT Lindsay in that game. So they start 1-0. They're one of the top teams in Louisiana, as always. And JT Lindsay is quite the prospect to watch, and especially his rise has been so much fun to see for him. And LSU's got a good one there, no doubt about it. And speaking of good ones, LSU offensive line coach Brad Davis did land Tyler Miller all the way back now in March. I mean, it's crazy how much time has flown in this recruiting cycle. And LSU has Tyler Miller committed, and they got him back on campus this past weekend. So a good thing there for LSU. Of course, you want to get these commitments back inside Tiger Stadium. You don't want them around elsewhere. Again, despite all of the flip targets for Ole Miss and flip targets for Mississippi State and other programs kind of kicking around, trying to help their own recruiting classes, Tyler Miller's remained locked in with LSU. And just talking with different sources, that's been the big push there, is that, his mom's a big fan of Brad Davis and the entire staff in Baton Rouge. And look, Ole Miss is going to make its push. They're going to try and flip him. Mississippi State is going to give it a go as well. But everything we hear, LSU sits in a good spot to keep Tyler Miller on board. And before we move on to the defensive side of the ball in the class of 2025, I do want to remind you guys that we also have a new partner to the Bengal Tiger, and that is with Roback. And Roback has now sponsored the Bengal Tiger. And this is an unreal opportunity for you guys to get this polo right here. Really, really nice look here. Super comfortable. And they have quite the expansive collection at roback.com. You can Google Roback LSU and it'll pop right up. And you can get onto that and start figuring out what you need for the rest of the season, because this is the good stuff here. I mean, this is what you want if you're a college football fan. And I've also got the hoodie as well, and it is just an unreal feel. It is just such a good product, and the promo code for 20% off, that is 20% off for first-time customers, is Bengal Tiger 20. It runs out soon, so definitely jump on that and use that. But you can go to Roback. That's RHOBACK.com. You get 20% off for new customers on polos, shorts, the hoodies, whatever, with the code Bengal Tiger 20. So this is a great opportunity for you to get dressed up for game day and really find something that is nice. I'm telling you, it is just great product from our friends at Roback. So lots of different opportunities there for you to check that out and be dressed for success on game day. And look, LSU is getting ready for some big games in the fall as it rolls on into October, November. Get the pullover, get the hoodie, get the polo, get hooked up with our friends at Rowback. As we continue on, we wrap things up on the defensive side of the ball, and LSU has the number one corner in the country. Well, I think they've got a chance to have the two top corners in the country based on what we're seeing this fall. LSU landed DJ Pickett out of the shock and misery of Miami and Oregon fans, and they've been able to obviously keep him so far. Middle of July is when he announced his commitment to the Tigers, and he did visit Florida basically to watch Miami, and he'll trip to Miami here soon to probably catch the Hurricanes. But he also has a ton of trips set up to see LSU. He's going to be around. He's going to be back in Baton Rouge. And don't forget, this was a Corey Raymond special. And, Miami having momentum in terms of what they've shown so far is fine. But LSU has really held the attention of DJ Pickett and his family. Miami's not going to, give up easily. They've got family ties. They've got all of those things that they're trying to push here. But, for LSU, they're going to get DJ Pickett back on campus here in the coming weeks as LSU will host him for the UCLA game. They'll host him for the Alabama game and the Oklahoma game. And Pickett will be back at Miami later this fall for the Florida State game. So, LSU is going to obviously have to keep swinging away to keep Mario Cristobal's hands off DJ Pickett. But Corey Raymond has done a terrific job building this, not as just some flimsy commitment. This is one that was building throughout, not only his time at LSU, but back when he was recruiting him for Florida, just setting up the relationship in the right way that it paid off with his commitment and looking like so far a really strong start to his senior season. I believe he had a couple of touchdowns. He's been playing both sides of the ball over there at Zephyr Hills, just north of where I grew up in Tampa area. And he's just a stud. I mean, they don't make him quite like DJ Pickett very often, 6'4", with the length, with the size. He can come in next year and start right away for LSU. If they could get him right now, they would very much be wanting him on campus. And it wasn't 2 touchdowns, it was 2 picks this past weekend down there for Zephyr Hills. So really strong showing from DJ Pickett. But don't sleep on another corner in this class, and that's Cade Phillips, one of the top cornerbacks in the country. On3 is the only recruiting service that has him in the top 100 right now. I saw he just hit over 20 miles per hour this past week on the football field. But Cade has really been somebody that had the potential to be a stock-up guy. LSU pitched him on being a corner. Other places were recruiting him at safety. He did commit to Texas, but in the end, Corey Raymond and this staff really did a nice job recruiting him, and he's got a chance to, I think, continue to rise. And his senior tape that he's put out there so far has been outstanding. And I think he's somebody that it has a chance to continue to rise. And if he continues to rise, that'll put LSU in the discussion to have the top 2 corners in the country, according to On3, because quite frankly, we know DJ Pickett's not going anywhere in terms of his ranking. It's a matter of, at this point, to me, who's in second place, so to speak. And Cade Phillips is making quite the statement in that respect. Also, don't sleep on Jaden Breaker. And this shocked me, but LSU landed his commitment at the end of July, and he has since blown up. He's got Alabama. He's got Georgia. He's got other offers that have been coming in for the South Gwinnett linebacker out of the Peach State. He is LSU's lowest rated commitment on the On3 industry ranking. I honestly was shocked. But Blake Baker went out, was evaling guys, kind of got him in late for the Bayou Splash, and got him on campus and got him flipped from South Carolina, which, by the way, LSU plays this weekend. So I'm sure Shane Beamer and his staff would love to take out some revenge on LSU. But the Tigers are sitting in a good spot here, at least so far, because Jaden Breaker did lock in an official visit. According to Shea, he broke that news that Jaden Breaker would be back in Baton Rouge for the October 8th, the 10th weekend. That is a bye for LSU. So he won't necessarily be able to get the Tiger Stadium experience for his official visit, but he's going to be back on campus, which is really important. And I think it says, honestly, a little bit more in a weird way because, instead of taking a free visit and then ended up at Alabama or Georgia or elsewhere, uh, Breaker is coming in for a bye week just to hang out with the staff, be around Blake Baker, see how they work. And that'll be a big opportunity for them to obviously strengthen his commitment and try to shut down these other programs from coming after him. And after a strong junior season, with his size, his athleticism, and explosiveness, he's been on a tear as a senior, and that's why the offers have rolled in as well for him. So a really talented pickup there for LSU. That who knows who ends up being the highest rated linebacker in this class for LSU, but it's probably between C.J. Ross and Jaden Breaker. And quite frankly, don't sleep on Jaden Breaker. I mean, he is really, really impressive in terms of his size. And so is CJ Ross with his speed and production there at North Shore. So finally, wanted to end with this. New offers do go out, and we'll break down some of those 2026 offers at thebengaltiger.com. You can get over there for $1 for 2 months with code LSU1. That's LSU, the number 1. But a 2025 offer went out that intrigued me. And after having 5 sacks in his senior season debut, and actually it wasn't only his senior season debut, it was his high school football playing career debut. Toby Hastrup has exploded with offers from all over the country. LSU, Ole Miss, tons of programs have come calling. Texas A&M, I saw, offered him. He had 5 sacks from Maid Creek in his debut, and since then, a bunch of offers have rolled in. UTSA and UTEP, I believe, were the first 2, and Texas State was in there as well. But Toby Hastrup is a really good-looking edge prospect, and LSU has 2 of the best edge prospects in the country committed. But they've also got to address that position. They've got Luedecke Harold and Damian Shanklin on board, but that's a spot where you can never have enough guys to pressure the quarterback. And so it'll be interesting. Toby did tell me that he does see himself wanting to check out LSU and start building out his visit plan. But he's about as pretty as they come. 6'4", 240, kind of looks like a bodybuilder of sorts in a way. But think former track star with a 10.7, but not necessarily maybe good enough to be an elite sprinter. But he's run against Caden Durham and Jelani Watkins and guys like that. And now he's turned his attention to football. He's from London. That's the UK. Originally came over, started really working on track. And then this offseason, the Maid Creek coaches finally convinced him to go out for football. He went out and had 5 sacks, and he's blowing up because of it. So that is about it on the recruiting front. Down and dirty, 30-plus minute podcast for you guys. So we'll have a lot more to talk about as LSU starts to really get into some of these bigger game weekends in this football season. They're on the road at South Carolina this weekend before hosting UCLA at home for a big game there for the Tigers to kind of get back on track, at least against the state of California, and grab a win there. But LSU recruiting wise, they're already starting to turn their attention to some junior evals for the class of 2026 and beyond. And of course, after they get done playing South Alabama on the 28th, they will have a bye week. So they'll be able to get out and eval even more guys as well. So for LSU, they are in a good spot. Top 5 class in the country. So be sure to track it all at thebengaltiger.com. For Shea Dixon, for Matthew Bruni, I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Bengal Tiger Recruiting Podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.